All right, we're late. How's it going, everybody? Oh, my God. We're live stream chat. What is happening? Your Ben Jarofsky show for Thursday, April 1st. You guys thought we were going to have no show today, huh? April Fools, right? That was an April Fool's joke that I did, us being late. That's what it was. Your Ben Jarofsky show for Thursday, April 1st is just moments away, but we need to thank our sponsors for the program. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. The Chicago Federation of Labor are sponsors, as well as the Chicago Reader. ChicagoReader.com for all things there is to know the city of Chicago. Where to go, what to do, how to think, what to eat. So many things. If you're a clueless Chicagoan, get a clue. Chicago Reader, ChicagoReader.com. Also, ChicagoReader.com/Jarofsky, J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. There, you can find out all kinds of information about the Ben Jarofsky Show. A list of our endless archive of episodes, over 900 episodes for you to download, listen to. And also, you can become a Ben head. That's right. It's a 3-tier system. When you become a Ben head, you can either join the alley, you could join the avenue, or the boulevard. For all that information, chicagoreader.com/Jarofsky. And if you become a boulevard member, you will get a free copy of Ben Jarofsky's book. It's the greatest hits, a collection of over 40 years. Holy cow, 40 years of Ben Jarofsky show, or Ben Jarofsky columns. Go check it out. Ben Jarofsky's greatest hits, chicagoreader.com/Jarofsky, and help support the Ben Jarofsky Show. The Ben Jarofsky Show starts now. It is Thursday, April 1st, and live from my apartment in his attic, this is the Ben Jarofsky Show. Today on the program, it's the long-awaited return of our Chicago Reader colleague, Maya Dukmasova. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Jarofsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Jarofsky here. We're calling this Infrastructure Thursday, and here's why. By the way, just briefly, D, whenever you do that introduction, I have 40 years of reader writing. I feel so old. Let's change it. Let's just make it. I've been writing for the Reader for 5 years.
For 40 weeks of Chicago Reader coverage. He's new, guys. He's a baby.
He's a Z. Anyway, where was I? Oh, great news from Washington, ladies and gentlemen. President Biden unveiled his $2 trillion, that's trillion with a T and an R, Rebuild America plan, a once-in-a-generation fix America's infrastructure. He unveiled it yesterday in a speech in his home state of Pennsylvania, figuring that, I know what I'll do. I'll go to Pennsylvania, a swing state. And that will mean that Republicans will love this as much as Democrats. If I go to a swing state and show that this will help everybody, not just liberals, not just lefties. And the reaction was widespread jubilation on both sides of the aisles as lefties and MAGA hat wearers joined together to celebrate the rebuilding of America. April Fools. Like that, D? Snuck that little April Fools reference in the thank you. Yeah, April Fools. You knew there was not going to be any widespread jubilation joining lefties with MAGA. Not going to happen in the United States in the year 2021. This country is too freaking stratified and weird to come together around anything. You'd think if there was anything in the universe that would join Americans together, it would be rebuilding infrastructure. Infrastructure is just a fancy word for streets. You know, things we drive over. And if we rebuild them, there won't be potholes. And even MAGA can't find a reason to be against filling potholes, but no. The initial reaction of Republicans is they're not going to support it. The Chamber of Commerce was one of the leading opponents. They're like Khrushchev back at the United Nations. Yet, I've half expect them to take off their shoe and bang the table I suddenly realize I have been at this a long time. That's a reference, a baby boomer reference to the former president of the Soviet Union, who one time literally did baby millennials take his shoe off and bang a table and say, "Yet." Anyway, the point is, the thing about Republicans is no matter what Joe Biden and Democrats do, they have a reason to be against it. So let's just say that Joe Biden rebuild roads and bridges and ports, but you're shy about how you're going to pay for it because you don't want to upset people who always complain about raising taxes. Then people say, well, you're not citing your source of funding. The numbers don't add up. You just can't kick the can down the road. This is no way to run a railroad, folks. Would you do this with your own budget? And it's like middle Americans everywhere are like, yeah, there's a deficit. We have to pay things as we go, like I do with my home budget. As though millions and millions of Americans aren't up to their eyeballs in credit card debt right now. So Joe Biden thinks, okay, I am going to have a very specific tax plan to pay for this infrastructure plan that we all need. He's proposing to pay for it by increasing corporate taxes from 21% to 28%. Many of you may recall that the corporate tax rate used to be 35%. But President Trump and the Republicans cut the margin to 21% in 2017 as part of their huge tax giveaway to rich people. Funny, wasn't anybody worried about the deficit then? That was different. If you're taking money out of the pockets of everyday people and putting it directly in the pockets of rich people, then the deficit is good. If you're putting money into everybody's pocket, then the deficit is bad. Got that? Poor Joe Biden. He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Republicans won't vote for his infrastructure bill unless he cites a funding source, because how are you going to pay for it? And if he cites a funding source, in this case, raising the corporate tax rate, then they're not going to vote for it because he's raising taxes. You know, I'm starting to think, Republicans, you're just not going to vote for anything that the Democrats come up with. Hey, fair map people in the state of Illinois, just think about that. Join the chorus for fair maps. So it looks as though it's all coming down to the Democrats to pass this bill. So first, that means ditching the filibuster so you can pass it with a simple majority as opposed to somehow or other rounding up 60 votes that you'll never get in a million years. And that means keeping Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin happy, the two Democrats who are always threatening to join the Republicans. Then you got to get them, once you got them to agree not to end the filibuster on this particular bill, then you got to get them to agree to the specifics of the bill. That's already iffy. Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, is worried that coal miners will get paid less digging coals than if you put up wind turbines. Fair enough. You don't want coal miners to lose on this deal. So effectively, you have to underwrite the cost of the wind turbines by directing federal tax dollars to pay higher wages. That's kind of how we do it here in Chicago, folks, with development deals. We're always underwriting the cost of a deal to the developer, one of our TIF plans. That's the incentive they have to have the plan in the first place. Now, why is there objection when you do that for developers in Chicago and coal miners in West Virginia? I'm not quite sure. Another objection is coming down from Michigan. Auto workers worry that by switching to electric cars means less employees working to build the cars. Again, you have to guarantee that the people who lose their jobs in the auto industry because they're shifting to electric cars get jobs somewhere else. And they still may not vote for you. I remember President Obama targeting millions and millions of dollars to bail out the auto industry in Michigan. A lot of the union workers still voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020. It's insane, people. You can put money in a man's pocket. He's still going to vote Republican. Got me thinking when I read this story today about how there's opposition to electric cars. The great pioneer in the industry of electric cars is Elon Musk. I know a lot of libertarian, pro-Trump supporters love him. He goes on the Joe Rogan show and smokes a joint, and they're just so excited at how cool he is. So somehow or other, when Elon Musk smokes a joint on the Joe Rogan show, he's cool, he's rich, and Republicans want to be like him. But when Democrats propose investing in electric cars, Republicans are like, Are you kidding? That's going to take away jobs. Those dastardly Green New Deal Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, I said it already. I'll say it again. We are insane. And that's no April Fool's joke. We got a great show today, everybody. Maya Dukmasova from my beloved Chicago Reader will be joining me. We'll be talking about First Tuesday. We'll be talking about Derek Chauvin trial in Minnesota. And we'll also be talking about carjacking crime, all kinds of issues with Maya Dukmasova with the Reader. Should be coming up really soon. Dee, before I do, I had something left over from yesterday that I wanted to mention. Hold on. Let me get out my newspaper.
There you go.
Let's hope I can find it.
Oh, boy, yeah. Me too. All of us are kind of hoping you can find it, honestly.
No pressure on this. This is part of my ongoing obsession with the Fair Map situation here. And here we go. I found it, D. That's great pre-show prep. I found it. So as I like to point out, we have a situation every 10 years. We have to redraw the legislative maps, the congressional maps. Not just in the state of Illinois, but throughout the country. That's because there's a new census, and you want to make sure that every district has roughly the same number of people in it as every other district, because you wouldn't want one district to have more representation than another. That's how we do things when it comes to legislative maps. Of course, we don't do that when it comes to electing president of the United States, but that's another issue. Anyway, so here in the state of Illinois, the Democrats control both houses, and they control the governor's mansion, so they're going to draw the map. Republicans have said that's not fair, and that they should have a hand in drawing the map, and somehow or another.
Hey, Ben, one second. Sorry, Ben, one second. Hey, Maya, you're can you put it on mute there? You're kind of having a feedback issue there. Or maybe turn the volume down when we do the.
There we go. Thank you very much, Maya. I like it when my guests come on early, but I don't like when they come with the feedback issues. Anyways, I was saying here in the state of Illinois, we have a situation where the Democrats will be drawing the map. Republicans say it's not fair, and they want a hand in drawing the map. And somehow or other, they've convinced good government groups that it's a good idea to allow Republicans to have a hand in drawing the maps. And they came out with a plan yesterday, or the day before, a cockamamie plan in which there would be a commission that would just draw the maps, and then ultimately would be turned over to the Supreme Court, the justice of the Supreme Court, and one other justice who's not of that Supreme Court justice's party would get to decide on how the map is drawn. In other words, it would be split 50-50, and Republicans would have every bit as much of a say in the drawing of the maps as Democrats. And I will repeat what I say every time I come face to face with the Republican proposal to have fair maps in Illinois. First of all, not going to support this until you also have fair maps in all the states controlled by Republicans, like Wisconsin. Just yesterday, I don't know if you saw this, the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, 4-3 in a partisan vote, voted to keep the state from having a mandated mask policy on the grounds that it's overreach, too much power for the Democratic governor. This is where the Republican Party is right now, ladies and gentlemen. Is this the party you want to give map-making jurisdiction to when it comes to Illinois? You want to turn Illinois into another Wisconsin? I say not one. Don't move 1 inch on this, Democrats. Don't give on this. You think you're being all fair and nice? It's not fair. Just giving more power to Republicans. If Republicans can't win at the ballot box in the state of Illinois, why do we give them more power? I don't see that happening in any state in the union controlled by the Republican Party. So I'm happy to see, for once, I'm eye to eye with the Democrats in the State House. Today, Sun-Times had a story in which State Representative Lisa Hernandez, who's the chair of the party that will be overseeing this process, the remap process, says she couldn't care less about the Republican proposal to make it a fair map. She's not even going to consider it. Hear, hear, I say. Can already hear my good government friends, even some of my indivisible friends, protesting as this debate continues. We got Maya Dukmasova standing right there, ready to go. I'm looking at her. She's got her headphones on. She's ready to go. We're going to bring her on after we take this break. Maya and I will be talking about First Tuesday, policing issues, and much, much more. Stick around, everybody.
And now, the list of things that you can buy at the Chicago Reader store at chicagoreader.com. Things to wear like Chicago Reader hats, t-shirts, bandanas, and face masks. Things for your daily life like the Chicago Reader camping mug, Chicago Reader tote bags, and a Chicago Reader reporter's notebook. Things for you to read like our Reader recipes, the Chicago Reader 420 Companion, our Chicago Reader Best of book series from journalists Maya Dukmasova, Mike Sula, Ben Jarofsky, and Leor Galil, the Chicago Reader coloring book, and the Chicago Reader Stay Home puzzle. Find the Chicago Reader store at chicagoreader.com and show your support for the nation's first free weekly newspaper since 1971.
Nearly 1,000 miles.
Thank you very much, Rahm Emanuel. Welcome back to the Ben Jarofsky Show, live from my apartment and his attic.
Yes, Rahm Emanuel. The good old days. Not April Fools, everybody. Maya Dukmasova, welcome back to the show. You look very healthy and ready to go. You had a nice. Weren't you off last week? Is in my memory that you were off last?
Couple weeks ago. Are you guys still having feedback with my mic?
Yeah, there's a little high pitched noise going on there.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it off. Hold on.
Cool. Oh, there we go. We're in business.
Oh, there we go. Sounds so good. Almost.
And definitely was very nice to just.
Oh, now still kind of hearing it.
Not work for a few days and just rest up and take a mental break.
Yeah. We still hear a little bit of the feedback, Maya. I'm not quite sure. Can you hear us? I'm not sure she can hear us now that she.
Oh, now we sounds like a tea kettle.
The live listeners get to hear this, but the smooth operating system.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go.
Some.
Okay.
As I said, the live listeners get to hear this. It's one of the many benefits of listening to the show live. But of course, when we're done with the magic of the editing process, the podcast listeners will not hear this great moment in the Ben Jarofsky Show, and they'll just think it was a smooth sail.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
All good.
Oh, that's okay. That's all good. Everything's good. Anyway, so first of all, let's talk about First Tuesday. It will be a virtual First Tuesday this coming Tuesday, and I want to give Maya credit. We had a little pre-show production about this. This is a Maya Dukmasova production. It was her vision, and she put it together, and she deserves a lot of credit for doing that. So I want to give you a special shout out, Maya, because I know this was not easy to put this one together. Tell folks what they will see and hear at First Tuesday, next Tuesday.
So we've got a very special show planned for folks. We have Miss Anjanette Young and Shapiro Wells joining us. Many of you may have already heard about Anjanette Young, have heard her name on the news, know what happened to her and why she's been in the news due to a botched police raid back in February of 2019. And Miss Wells is has a podcast of her own, and her situation has not gotten as much media attention, but she also had her own very jarring experience with the Chicago Police Department when her son was shot in 2016 when he was driving through Belmont Cragen, and then pulled over at a Chicago Police Department, I believe it was a 25th District station, and asked for help. And the officers that came out instead treated him as a suspect, delayed in getting an ambulance to him, handcuffed him, and basically lost precious minutes getting him to a hospital, and he died before he got there. So Miss Wells then tried to figure out what happened, why her son died, tried to figure out what happened in terms of police department procedure and the actions of the officers that her son encountered, but also who actually killed her son. Because initially her first instinct had been that maybe this was a case of a police killing, but in fact that wasn't the situation. And so she ended up being in a position where she had to really fight the department to get some basic answers about her son, who was the victim of a crime, of a shooting. So she ended up coming pretty close to actually solving the crime herself with the help of the Invisible Institute. And that's what the podcast is partially about, which is called Somebody. And you can find it on all podcasting platforms. And we really encourage everybody to take a listen to that before the First Tuesday show next Tuesday night. So yeah, but we'll talk with both of them about sort of what it's been like to take on the police department and the city in search for some accountability after these events, and also, you know, how they've dealt with being thrust into the limelight, but also into activism as a result of their experiences. We'll talk to them about, you know, what's currently happening with police accountability issues in the city and beyond. And we just really hope to have an interesting conversation and give you all an opportunity to ask your questions as well. So next Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. It's still an all online live stream show, and we're only doing the video of the show for the folks who will get a ticket. So you can go to noonchorus.com/hideout. That's NOONCHORUS.com/hideout. You can click on First Tuesdays, get your tickets. They're only $5. It really helps to Hideout keep going as we're kind of seeing the light of the end of the tunnel of this pandemic. And hopefully this will be the last show we do as an online only format, but y'all will have to stay tuned for more potential details as the vaccination situation gets clearer, as the pandemic gets more under control. So yeah, did I miss anything?
No, you didn't. And I have in front of me just sort of adding to what you said, which I keep. This as a reflection of me as much as anything else. My inability to throw away pieces of paper. I printed out a copy of the press release issued December 15, 2020 from the Mayor Lightfoot's press office, in which she states, without any hesitation, without any doubt, today I became aware of an incident involving Miss Anjanette Young from February 2019, before I became member. She always puts that out. And I saw a video today for the first time. I had no knowledge of either until today. I had a very emotional reaction to what was depicted on the video, as I imagine that many people did. And she goes on to conclude by saying, since this matter is a subject of litigation and an COPA investigation, I will have no further comment. Well, she abandoned that statement, that emphatic, declarative statement. And I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for you. That was just like a moment of singular moment of crisis for me and Lori Lightfoot. I really lost a lot. It just was really hard for me just to remain uncritically supportive of Lori Lightfoot. Not that I had been before then, but that was just such a moment where she just declared something. Like me looking out that window and saying the sky is blue. And then the next, oh, wait a minute. Not that way it happened. I had a conversation with a law department aide about Anjanette Young, and I will be discussing it because all hell is breaking out. Because you can't just ignore the fact that the police just crashed into her house, Anjanette Young's house, while she was naked, handcuffed her and make her stand there while they searched her house. Just pretend like that's a non-issue. So I really had a lot of issues with that. We talked about that so much in the show. I probably talked about it with you a few times. Just that emphatic declaration from the city of Chicago. And this is what is so frustrating, Maya, and you've written about this many times, but it's so frustrating when dealing with, well, just dealing with anything with the city of Chicago is very frustrating when they say it's A and you know it's B, and they withhold the information that enables you to make some kind of objective decision about what the truth is. But when it's something as powerful as why the police crashed Anjanette Young's house and handcuffed her and held her there, and whether they were within following the correct procedures, what kind of mistakes were made, and whether they apologized to her. And it seems like they're putting PR ahead of the truth. It gets exceedingly frustrating. I think this is what some of the stuff we're going to be addressing on Tuesday night, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And just I think both of them, in both of their situations, there's this similar way in which it's so obvious that they've been really mistreated by the police department, by people who are representing the city, who are ostensibly there to serve and protect and to help. Okay. And I mean, in Miss Young's case, particularly egregiously, but Miss Wells as well. I mean, she was getting really she made so she made basically she recorded her interactions with Chicago police detectives as she met with them to talk about her son's murder, and especially as she began to kind of do an investigation, find leads, come to them with some information about what possibly could have happened, who might have done it. The way that she was treated was really disrespectful. And this is this is all on her podcast, and you can hear the tape yourself. And then, you know, there's no apology. There's much less even much less like an acknowledgement by the higher up people in Miss Wells's case that the way she was treated and the way her son's case was handled, it was really atrocious and unacceptable. And especially in a city where officials are obsessed with talking about gun violence, with how out of control, you know, these young people are in the neighborhoods, how the shooting is out of control, how we have to do something about it. You know, when it comes to individual instances where people get killed and their families are looking for answers, then, you know, it's oftentimes I've heard the police department talk about how, well, we can't find witnesses. We can't find anyone to talk to. The families won't cooperate, blah, 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 blah. Here you have a situation where you not only have a family that's cooperating, you have a family that's bringing you witnesses. I mean, Miss Wells found people who made statements to the police, who were willing to talk. I mean, her story really kind of pushes back against all these narratives about how no one will talk about shootings and people aren't going to give any information to the police. Plenty of people came forward pretty quickly, sharing what they knew. And there was like a pretty narrow range of possible suspects who were identified very, very quickly. But when Miss Wells brought those things to the police department, she just got stonewalled and disrespected. And I feel like so much of the you know, there's the initial problem of like Miss Wells getting raided in her own home and getting handcuffed and being, you know, treated in this like exceedingly degrading fashion. There's the initial problem of Miss Wells' son, Courtney Copeland, getting killed and seeking help from the police and not getting it in a timely fashion. But then in the aftermath, there's this whole process by which you're trying to confront the people who did you wrong, who are officially supposed to be serving you. You're trying to confront them with like the reality of the situation and trying to get some accountability. And all you get is more disrespect. All you get is more resistance. All you get is defensiveness and bravado. And the sense that like, well, you know, who are you to be telling us how to do our jobs? Who are you to be like, you know, asking questions? No, we're not going to give you the video of what happened to you. No, we're not going to answer your questions about, you know, actually in both cases, for both of them, they've had this like monumental fight to get video that exists of their situations. So yeah, it's really frustrating. And I think once you start seeing it up close and hearing people's experiences that are so vastly at odds with the narrative that the officials, you know, the politicians or the mayor's office or the police department puts out about how people in the neighborhoods don't care and aren't cooperating, it really, you know, it just kind of exposes how far we have to go before we have a functional public safety apparatus in the city.
And you're by the way, you meant to say Miss Young, as opposed to Miss Wells, whose house was invaded at the start of that great riff that you went on. Miss Young, Anjanette Young. But to your larger point, I think it's even bigger than the police department. You spend more time covering criminal justice issues and policing issues than I do. I spend so much of my time writing about just raw politics and education, dealing with the Board of Ed, dealing with the bureaucracy in general. And Maya, I was going to say there's the Chicago thing. When we get to Derek Chauvin trial, I realize it's probably bigger than Chicago. But in the city of Chicago in particular, in general, there is just this arrogance when people come forth and try to deal with the quote unquote professionals, often, not every case, but often, there's a dismissive attitude, like you don't tell us how to run our city. And that's just so ingrained in the Chicago mentality. I'm thinking of the Chicago public schools now more than I am actually thinking of the police department. You go to a Board of Education meeting. In the old days, it was really more obvious when it was a public meeting as opposed to a virtual meeting. And you look at the faces of the Board of Education they've got the members, they've got that stone face they put on. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going to show any emotion. Lori Lightfoot talked about having that stone face when she was on the police board. She had that conversation at the Hideout with Mick Dumpke and me when she was a candidate. How you have to put that face on so people can't read what you're thinking. You don't want to show that you're sympathetic in one way or another at any side, you know? And they got that attitude like, well, we're listening to you. We don't necessarily believe you. And then they'll turn to the professional, you know, who will sort of contradict whatever the person is saying. It's like gaslighting them almost. That's just sort of like a Chicago thing that goes beyond the police department, but it is particularly egregious, as you were pointing out, when it's something like invading someone's home.
Yeah, and it's so kind of interesting to see how quickly. I mean, I guess this is just fundamentally a question of like what power does. When someone has power and they know they have power, they know that they're regulating the emotional space. They know that they get to decide what matters. And I mean, I don't know, just speaking of the Board of Education, like, I don't know, like what you see this thing, like, what do you think when you see this, like Miguel Del Valle, right? Like who started his political career being this, like, you know, shaking his fist into that kind of stony face machine power, right? Like what was he like in the 80s? Can you believe that when you see him now, can you believe it's the same guy?
No, I was literally in the room the day Miguel Del Valle won the Democratic primary. I think it was 1986. God, am I old? Anyway, and it was such a moment of jubilation. He defeated Ed Nedza, who was an operative from the old Tom Keene organization. God, this is ancient Chicago political history. And people were jubilant. I remember Del Valle with the microphone. We won. We beat Nedza. It was a great moment in Chicago independent politics, the development of independent politics on the northwest side of Chicago. So yeah, it's remarkable. I watched the transformation. This is fundamentally, we're on a tangent here, why I still support an elected school board. The powers that be in the city of Chicago have decided that we're not going to get an elected school board. And I see, once again, just the coming together, all the voices, editorial voices, corporate voices saying, no, it's too unruly. It's too much democratic. It's too much democracy. You're going to have the teachers union having too much control. And in the case of a police board, the police union, elected police board, if you will, the police union would have too much control. So better let the mayor do everything. I don't know how it's working so well with the mayor having the ultimate power over all these beings. But I do know this. When the mayor puts somebody on the school board, the expectation is that person will be an adjunct of the mayor. Yeah. And so you don't see them, for instance, in the school board, you don't hear them piping up about whether we should have more nurses in the public schools. Remember that strike over the nurses in the public schools, which pre-pandemic, or whether we should open the schools right now or, have more testing or vaccines. They're just supposed to sit back and rubber stamp whatever decision the mayor has. And I don't know if that's healthy for the city of Chicago in terms of the way we run our schools or the way we run our police department. But it seems to be the way things are going right now.
Yeah.
All right, Maya, I want to switch to talk about how they do things in Minnesota. Get your thoughts about the Derek Chauvin trial. But something popped in my mind that I didn't discuss the last time we were on the show, and I just wanted you to take a moment to talk about your profile of Congressman Garcia that ran in the Reader. How many weeks ago was it? I forget how long. It doesn't matter. It's a very interesting article article that you wrote. I urge everybody to check it out because you talk about Garcia's emergence as a member of the squad as, I don't even want to call it a progressive because that word is so overused. So I'll just use my word, a lefty, a real true blue lefty who's joining sort of the left ranks of national politics. And that may be surprising to many Chicagoans who know him as a Chicago pol who, when he ran for mayor, the first proposal in 2015 he had was to hire 1,000 more cops, if you recall that one. A very sort of conventional campaign.
Yeah, our colleague Steve Bogira wrote an article for the Reader at the time with the headline, "No, Chewy, let's not hire 1,000 more cops."
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the transformation of Jesus Garcia on the national stage as a Democratic congressman. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to work on that story because I feel like locally he's really lost his kind of luster as a lefty, and especially among younger people who may only really be familiar with him as the the mayoral candidate in 2015, who don't have any living memory of his political career before that. He's someone who is seen, I think, very much as kind of an an establishment guy, especially for people who have no memory of the Hispanic Democratic Organization and know the history of Chuy and Miguel del Valle and Luis Gutierrez being these independent Latino political organizers and then trying to fight the machine, co-opting the Latino vote with their own people. But yeah, so I think I had sort of stopped. I hadn't thought about him much in terms of his leadership as a progressive or a lefty. But since he got to Congress in 2018, he's definitely come out, taking pretty bold, consistent progressive stances, not only on the things you would expect, the things that he ran on, like Medicare for all and, housing justice issues and the Green New Deal and all these, basically sticking to the promises he had made, but also on pretty wide range of international issues that really don't get much attention at all or press, not in the local community in terms of the district that he represents, or even really on in the regular news cycle. So I was surprised to find how much of an internationalist how much of an internationalist reputation he built for himself very quickly. And as you said to me back when I was first researching this and we were talking about this, that's kind of who he's always been. Your impression was that, this was always where his heart is. He was somebody who was always engaged in talking about broader, movements and broader issues going on beyond America's borders that are all connected to the social and political issues we're dealing with here. But it's kind of, it was, I personally don't like writing stories about politicians much. I don't like writing profiles about politicians much because they tend to be extremely boring people to interview. Their stories tend to be so massaged for PR purposes and so well known and so kind of they're rarely surprising. They're rarely interesting to talk to in interviews. People rarely say interesting things about them. So in some ways, doing this profile definitely met all my usual expectations when it comes to that. I mean, he's a terrible person to interview in terms of how, he's just like all the rest of them. He's not a great, he's got 20, 30 minutes. You have to cram all these questions in. All the answers are canned. They're trying to run down the clock to just keep talking so that because they know you've only got limited time and a billion questions. So they're trying to run down the clock so you don't get to all your questions. It's just like a circus that, everyone knows what's happening. And I hate, having to play the game. So, yeah, but I think on the bright side of it, I think that, and maybe it's because he's transitioned to Congress where there's simultaneously more possibility for action on bigger issues, but also some cover because it's kind of a low profile job, frankly. I mean, 4 people in Chicago, a congressman's role is way lower profile than even an alderman's, So yeah, so I think that he's kind of a surprising example of like a guy in politics who seems to be keeping his promises. I mean, it's only been 2 years, but he's pretty much doing what he promised to, and he's doing more of the things lefties like than they even expected from him. So from a progressive lefty standpoint, because I mean, this article was initially commissioned by these Times, and they were really interested in that question. Like, is he really as lefty as he claims? And like, I guess he's pretty much as lefty as you can expect a congressman to be on most issues. So there you go. Chuy Garcia, keeping promises.
That's a great riff, Maya. You had me laughing because what you said is so true on a couple fronts. That bit where you deal with the communications person, like in the old days when Jesus Garcia was first entering politics, you just called Jesus Garcia. You know what I mean? And you dealt with him.
Doesn't work like that anymore, man.
No. In fact, what's really annoying, if I go on a tangent within a tangent, let's hope I remember where I was when I started this tangent, is when you have a young, just emerging candidate for a lowly office like alderman, and he or she has a communications person. They don't even reach out to you. You got a call from Billy Bob. Yeah, Billy Bob. I'm Sally Sue's communication person. Sally Sue's running for alderman. Why isn't Sally Sue calling? This is not a good sign. Sally Sue hasn't even been elected alderman, and she already has her.
She's already got someone managing.
Whack. It's like, not good.
Yeah.
But but that bit, and where the communication person says, all right, you have half an hour. That's it. Very important person. Only have a half
hour. On the call, you can just feel them breathing. You just feel them breathing on your neck, And I mean, okay, I will say that Chuy's people were, actually they were all women, but they were all, they were very fast to communicate. Like I really expected that I was going to email them, and it was going to take me like forever to get a hold of them. I got an email within like an hour. When I asked the interview, they were right back with me. They right away said they were interested. They gave me I got like 10 or 15 minutes longer than I had banked on. So, it's like, as far as this stuff goes, it was like a pretty good scenario, but it's still, it's an extremely limited amount of time to have a meaningful conversation. And it's already hard enough to have a meaningful conversation with a politician, even when you don't, even in an informal setting off the record. The things that it was more important what people said about him. And a lot of people said a lot of surprisingly consistently positive things about the job he's doing, both for his constituents and as a national advocate.
I remember to the point, first point about managing you, the last time I reached out to your favorite politician, Rahm Emanuel, to get an interview, he was running for mayor in 2011. And they told me I went through heaven. I moved heaven and earth to get this interview. They told me I had 5 minutes, Maya. 5 minutes.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
That's it, Ben. And the reader editor I didn't even want to do the damn interview, but the reader editor, come on, man, you gotta interview him. He's running. 5 minutes. I gets on the phone. Yeah, Mom. He's like, and he's like, he starts off complimenting me about TIFF stories, which I know he had never read, nor did he agree with them, but he's complimenting. So I said,
that's how he ran down the clock for 5 minutes?
Yeah. I go, wait a minute. I told him, I said, Ram, you can't hold that a minute that you just spent complimenting me with the TIFF stories, which you never read. I didn't say that. You never read it, against my 5 minutes. So it didn't go very well. He ended up hanging up on me, Maya. So it was all downhill after that. But the other thing you said, I had a conversation. I remember when you were first doing the story, you're right, it triggered it. I had this memory of Chuy back in the 80s being at a meeting where there was some representative of the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. I remember having that memory, and I couldn't find any trace of it in any article I wrote. So now I'm wondering, was that a figment of my imagination to that? Was that a dream or something? But I swear to God, Maya, I remember that moment. I remember Chuy giving me a hard time after a certain article I ran, or a question I asked about, how surprised I was that a Chicago alderman would be welcoming Sandinistas to town. And I was like, well, I just never think of Chicago aldermen having positions on international affairs. You know what I'm saying? Or foreign policy. It would be like they're worried about potholes and stuff. Like this is a little out of their traditional whatever world. And no, so even then in the 80s, Chewy Garcia was thinking outside of Chicago. Anyway, excellent article.
I feel like if I just want to also plug, as long as we're talking about ancient history. I mean, I obviously encourage everyone to read this article, but I really also want to plug an amazing long story that Linda Lutton wrote for the Reader in the 90s after Chewy lost his state Senate seat to one of Mayor Daley's HDO toadies.
Yes.
So this will give you both a really good idea about who Chewy is as a person, but also it's a little window into like pre-flack, pre-PR, everything is managed moment among politicians. I mean, also it was like he had lost the seat, so when she was spending time with him, he was just not a politician anymore. But it's a really great story that'll give you a lot of context about who Chewy is and where he comes from. And tell just to me, it was just like such a great window into getting a sense of how the city works and worked in the 90s, which is still, I mean, some of these people are still around today. So I really encourage everyone to check it out, especially people living on the Southwest side, especially people in the 22nd Ward. The story is called War on Independence, and it's by Linda Lutton, and it's linked in my piece as well about Chewy. But just Google War on Independence, Chicago Reader, Chewy Garcia, and you'll find it really easily. Great story, and really teaches you a lot about how Chicago works.
Yeah, Linda Lutton, WBEZ reporter now. Back in the day, was a Reader editor, not well known. I once had her on this show. We interviewed her. We had a lot of fun. It was. She edited me many years ago. Well, she was probably saved my neck more than once or twice. But the state senator that defeated Chewy Garcia is Tony Munoz, who's still a state senator from the Southwest side. And now his opponent, I don't know if you saw this, Maya, or it may be his opponent. The guy's got to get on the ballot. He's running as independent, is a member of the Proud Boys. So... That got your attention. Yeah. A Proud Boy, I forget his name. I can't remember it at the moment. Is announced that he's going to run for.
He's running as a Democrat?
No, this is where his problem is. He's running as an independent. And as young Tommy Shuba, ace reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times, pointed out, you got to get a lot of signatures to get on the ballot as independent. And it's not even the time to get the signatures hasn't even happened yet. So I got a feeling that this guy hasn't really mastered, the intricacies of the election law governing things. But what a moment! Like you got to choose between the HDO guy who defeated Chewy Garcia back in the 90s and the Proud Boys. I'm with the HDO guy in this particular case, 100%.
Jesus Christ! What a like. I don't know what to say. What do you do?
You vote for the HDO guy. That's what you do. You vote for the HDO guy. Anyway, yes, everybody check out Linda Lutton's story from way back in the day. All right. Before we get to your latest story on carjacking, which you're working on, I want to ask you about that. Your thoughts about what's going on in Minnesota at the trial. Derek Chauvin, the police officer who killed George Floyd. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's hard to have any new thoughts about this at this point, but I guess, yesterday, or was it this morning already, that they were playing I was just listening to the news broadcast about it on the radio. They were playing all this audio from the police and video from the body cams and all of that. And it's just, it's just incredible. I mean, going back to the point that the points we were making about Anjanette Young and Chaparral Wells' situations, like just hearing the way these officers are talking to this man before they even killed him, but the way that they're confronting him over a counterfeit bill, like just the whole thing is just so quickly, it's just so aggressive, so violent even before it becomes physical. And I can't, part of, I think, what's been really brought out by the trial and this witness testimonies is like how guilty so many people seem to feel, like the witnesses, and then they had the clerk, the kid who took the bill, how guilty so many people feel, and from having watched it and witnessed it and felt like they could have done something different or something more to prevent this. But like, this is, we all know that this is like way beyond what any individual, the different choices any individual bystander or even, the people that worked at the store could have made. Like, it's just, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy how we police in this country and who we hire to do it. And that's all. I mean, that's all the thoughts that come up is like, you just, if you take an interest in how else community safety is assured in other parts of town. I mean, what do you think? Like, people aren't necessarily using counterfeit bills or shoplifting or whatever else in, Winnetka or Northbrook or something, like are there like a bunch of cops that show up to deal with like someone stealing a pack of cigarettes or trying to use a fake, it's just like, yeah, I don't know how many more ways you can be shown that this way of policing poverty is wrong. I'm not going to say it's broken, because it's not broken. This is a system that's designed to function this way, and it's wrong. It's wrong, and it's ineffective for the goals that we're supposedly saying that we need to solve. And it's morally wrong, and it's deadly, and like it's so far beyond the individual actions of any single person that's part of the system. And I think by now, what another thing that's interesting about this trial is how much, it is this individual officer who just decided to kill this man. But it's also, I feel like all the conversations about the trial are really right away moving to this bigger systemic conversation. Like, we all know by now that this isn't just about this one particular guy deciding to kill someone. This is a whole system that makes that guy possible. So, yeah.
The system designed to function this way.
Yeah, a system that's not broken, but that's functioning exactly like we've set it up to work. So as long as the system is working this way, there's going to be more Derek Chauvins, They're out there right now. Like, these kinds of guys are doing these kinds of jobs. So, yeah, I don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah. Really, that first point you made before we move on is right on. It was the issue at hand was a $20 bill that was counterfeit. That was the issue at hand. And that's what this turned into. And you're right, that the testimony of the clerk who said, I just wish I had never reported in the first place. It's ridiculous that it turned into this. Very disturbing stuff coming out of Minnesota. All right. You haven't completed the story yet, but let's tease a little bit. Carjacking.
Yeah. Everybody's losing their minds about it. And so, since it's such a hot topic in the media, and it is actually a thing that's happening, it's been happening more often since the pandemic started, and is a kind of persistent and a pretty typical crime in some sense, because there's always carjackings happening. It's not like a new thing. But it's been happening at an increasing rate, even as every other type of burglary, robbery, armed robbery has been down, way down, this past year. But what I'm really interested in is just the way that we're discussing this. Like, this is this particular moment's crime wave. And every few years, there's like another thing that we're seeing a crime wave, and especially when the narrative is that young people are disproportionately doing this, any kind of crime. I feel like the conversation becomes even more heated. So we've got this like constant coverage of how terrible this is for the victims, obviously. And that's, you know, irrefutable and incontrovertible that it's like a terrible thing to happen. But it's also something that the police have been pretty consistent in their messaging about the fact that most of these cars, from what they can tell, are not being stolen to sell. They're not being stolen for any particular purpose other than to just joyride and then dump. And I think that makes this even scarier, because the thing about something like joyriding done by young people is that it's not a rational thing. Like when people are doing something for fun, it's something that doesn't have like a clear, you know, causal effect or it's not a purposeful activity. And that when it's a crime that's being done for fun, it's particularly scary to people, because it's just terrifying to think that you might be the victim of a crime and somebody's not taking your car because they want your particular type of car. They're just taking it because they can, and you were in that moment crossing paths with the person that decided to do it. So with all of that in mind, like as I watch this, I'm thinking to myself, like, are we going to have like another super predator moment here? Like, is this going to trigger some kind of huge backlash and wave of trying to think of punishment and punitive policies and changes in the law that to respond to this? And what will be the consequences of what the response is if we go in that direction? Because I've been listening to, like, I was catching up on like a 6-hour City Council Public Safety Committee hearing from January about this. And it's like the conversation is about, how are we cracking down? How are we cracking down? Why these kids think there's no consequences? And then on the other hand, there's also some aldermen and officials and different people who are talking about the systemic problem. You know, like this is like crime and poverty go hand in hand. Juvenile delinquency and poverty go hand in hand. Like the solution here, if we don't want this to be happening, is for kids to not be poor, to have things to do, to have for there to be resources in communities of various kinds. And so I feel like, yeah, we're just in this moment where there are these two kind of polar opposite conversations happening about what to do and how to intervene, and long-term solutions versus short-term solutions. And some aldermen say that we can do both. We can both have a crackdown, and we can have long-term solutions. But what I'm trying to figure out with this article, as I'm like reading research and talking to experts and talking to young people as well, is just, you know, how much of that is really going to matter to like put an end to this particular spike in this crime and bring it back to the level of where it typically is. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, in the past, we have a clear idea of policy responses to crime waves that now you can clearly see have no effect. Like, research shows that have no effect on stopping any particular crime wave. So as we're in this moment when like the law hasn't been changed or things haven't specifically happened differently, I'm just trying to see like what are other pathways we can go down that both acknowledges and somehow responds to the fact that there's this like terrible thing happening, but also doesn't create more problems. And in the end, like maybe, like what if we do nothing? You know, because the thing about every crime wave that's ever happened that we have a record on is that no matter what we do, it follows its own path and logic. So at least that's some of the research that I've read so far. And like I said, this is like still a work in progress. So it seems that from what we know about our interventions into crime waves is that they don't do anything. The crime wave abates on its own. That's usually what happens. And, I'm exploring whether that's even something that's politically feasible, because at the same time, we've got like communities that are really, really hit hard by this terrible thing, and people are terrified.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I said, it's a work in progress, but these are the questions I'm trying to answer.
All right, definitely looking forward to this this story when it emerges, and of course we'll be back to talk about it in much greater detail. What if we do nothing? Wow, I wrote that down, and I understand exactly.
That doesn't mean we don't do nothing for the victims. That doesn't mean we don't get people's cars back, get them, the healthcare or mental health care they may need. That doesn't mean that we don't go after the people, that we don't try to solve the crimes and arrest the people who did this. That's not what I'm saying. But what if we just keep doing the responses that we already have, which the police are constantly saying that they're already doing?
Yeah.
Like, what if we just stick to the tools we already have? That's what I meant by that. Not that we ignore it.
Yeah, I understood the point you're making. I'm glad you elaborated on it. Not that they're going to take somebody from flipping around and turning into something else if they wanted to, but I appreciate that. But I will say this before we leave this point, that the gist of the argument you're making about correct approaches that policing have is an argument that people of the libertarian persuasion will make. I'll see it from time to time. Not the Libertarian Party that's been taken over by the Republican Party, but like real libertarians talk about this in terms of like, let's talk about a problem that we have, carjacking, and if we have more police going after, like setting up situations. I'm trying to think of, like, we have police patrols, increased police patrols just for this particular crime. Will that matter? And so, like, a libertarian point of view will be, well, will that have an impact if we just put aside our emotional reaction, which is our fear at being carjacked ourselves, or our horror at reading a story about other carjacking, and try to view it almost like a social scientist. That's like how a libertarian would do it. So when I heard you talking, I was thinking about libertarian analysis to crime that I've read in the past, and to particularly restrictions on drugs, prohibition on drugs. And it has not worked out the way we wanted to. That's obvious. I think the classic case is the war on drugs has not worked out the way we wanted to, unless we wanted to incarcerate a whole bunch of people who didn't deserve to be incarcerated. That's a whole other story. All right, Maya, I'm going to let you go. Close out this conversation one more time. Tell folks where they and how they can watch the First Tuesday show. Go.
Yeah, so they can grab a ticket at noonchorus.com/hideout. Maybe you all can put this out on social media and add it in the show notes or something where people know the URL. It's noonchorus.com/hideout. Tickets are $5. The show is next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. It'll be live streamed. Once you have your ticket, you'll have the access to the live stream. We're not going to be having the video up later, so this is really for people who can make it on that night, and it really, really helps the Hideout. So please grab a ticket. And yeah, we'll be talking with Shapiro Wells and Anjanette Young, and we look forward to the conversation with them and with you all.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, as Maya is, that maybe, I don't know, July, if this everybody gets enough vaccines, we can do some kind of live show. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the Hideout or outside the Hideout. We're still talking about that. But I do miss the days of the live shows, of directly interacting with people.
The live stream chat wants a patio party at the Hideout once everything is all said and done.
Well, that actually, thank you, live stream chat, because that's kind of what they were talking about at the Hideout. I'm letting the cat out of the bag there, but yeah, we've been talking about that with the Hideout folks. They're eager, Maya, for all the obvious reasons. And I can't emphasize this enough. Maya and I really appreciate the people who show up for the virtual First Tuesdays, not only because it's good to know that people are listening to these important issues, but you're supporting the Hideout. just one of the many bars and venues that have been hit hard by the pandemic. And I personally have a lot of affinity for the Hideout because they open their stage to lefties like me. And, well, not a lefty. Maya's not a lefty. Maya's a objective journalist. And she didn't want to be known as a lefty. So anyway, Maya, I'll see you on Tuesday, all right?
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
That's the great Maya Dukmasova.
Madam Secretary, you talk a lot about the mothers
she left.
of your friends, where you went to their houses and you knew that they were going to be kind and generous and supportive of you. So that theme of women being present and how they make a difference, talk a little bit about that and how that, again, animated some of the selections that you made of people in the book.
That's a great question, Mayor.
No, it's not.
Oh, I wish Maya was here to hear that one. That, of course. Damn. That, of course, is that great moment in journalism where Lori Lightfoot tossed the softball up to Hillary Clinton. Great question, Mayor. And Maya heard it. She came on the show. That was like the day after, and she was just so fired up. Went on like a 20-minute riff, right, D? It was it was like Jimi Hendrix playing a guitar. She just took off, man.
Unlike the softball that Alderman Ray Lopez gave the mayor a while back.
I want an answer. It's not something you ignore.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think
No offense, well, fuck you then.
Oh, my God.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
Wow.
Yeah, come on now. No offense. Okay, that's my favorite part of it. No offense, Madam Mayor.
That sounds like it's going to be an awesome first Tuesday, though, man.
Yeah, it's really going to be awesome. Anjanette Young, I don't know if she's ever made a public appearance before. Shapiro Wells, folks, she's been on the show, and she's a very compelling speaker as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting and dynamic discussion, a lot of testimony. Some of it will probably be hard to take, particularly Anjanette Young tells a story. And Shapiro Wells, her son was killed. So it should be very moving and very illuminating. And I'm looking forward to it, D. This Tuesday.
I put the where you should look on the live stream chat, Noon Chorus, Noon Chorus, CHORUS/hideout. Just start there on your browser and it should take you there, all right? We want everybody there. It's the virtual first Tuesday happening this Tuesday. Breaking news. Tomorrow on the Ben Joravsky Show. We said it was going to be today, but boy, we are loosey-goosey here. We're planning it as we go along. Tomorrow on the Ben Joravsky Show, a Friday week in review. You've been used to the local news that we do. What's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon? Well, we're going to do it once a week, and it's going to be tomorrow. I am collecting so many stories from the week, and all of them are absurd, just like they always have been. We're going to be talking about the week that was for the mayor, the week that was for the governor, the week that was for this Acosta guy. Oh, my God. You want to tune in for this. We're going to be talking about that as well. And also Governor Pritzker's latest gubernatorial challenger.
Oh, God. That dude, Rabin. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Dennis has been feverishly working behind the scenes, cutting tape, getting it together. Because as he said yesterday, it's the 1980s, ladies and gentlemen. And plus, we're going to have a mystery sort of guest.
You're kidding.
Right, D? Well, a behind-the-scene mystery guest, behind-the-scene mystery producer, who we will not reveal. But I'm looking at him right now. It's going to be like producing things as we expand the Ben Joravsky Show.
Very interesting. A mystery guest tomorrow on the Ben Joravsky Show. We're going to be doing what a week it was, covering the week that was in Chicago and or Illinois. Also, like Ben said, a mystery guest. Oh my God, guys! I can just see all of you listening right now. You're on the edge of your seat. Holy cow! My goodness.
I have a feeling when I'm done with the show, the mystery guest is going, under no circumstances am I saying anything on this show. I'm just a mystery producer behind the scenes. That's the mystery producer doing his mystery producing.
That's going to be tomorrow, guys, 1 p.m., the same time that we always do it. A week in review. Guys, it's going to be a great time. Tell your friends, huh? And all join on the live stream chat. We'll have fun. You know? Frank, Brianna, Doogie, Jay Marie, what's happening? And a new guy on the live stream chat, H.M. Noel. What's up, H.M.?
Are you going to make me sing a song for this thing
Okay,
tomorrow?
let's talk about it. Elephant in the room. We're doing Song of the Week now, all right?
Week.
I haven't really got the stats on those who are just loving Song of the Day, but I got a feeling they're pretty low. You know what I mean? So we'll do Song of the Week, So we'll do that, and then we will kick off our week that was. Oh, no, yeah, you better believe that damn Brown line will be there, too.
By the way,
what?
Just throwing this out there. Maybe we should make our mystery producer sing a song.
Oh, yeah. Do you want him to leave? Week 1.
We'll never hear from him again. Like, suddenly, the number you called has been disconnected. Mystery producer is going to sing a little Led Zeppelin, his favorite Led Zeppelin song.
That's right, Frank. Give us a Song of the Week. Be the first on the live stream chat. Whoever's first on the live stream chat gets Song of the Week. Turns out it's always Frank. But hey, maybe tomorrow it will change. We'll do a Song of the Week, and then we'll kick it off with a week that was talking all things the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. What?
Wait, speaking of Frank, this thing you sent me is so unbelievable. It's not unbelievable, but it is unbelievable. And I want to thank you. I go on and on about cancel culture. I write about it. I talk about it, how the Republican Party has successfully labeled the Democrats and liberals as the cancel culture police. And of course, they're canceling. Meanwhile, Republicans, anybody they disagree with gets canceled all the time. So Frank sent me this. What is this, a tweet from Tennessee? Bill Griffey and the Republicans' bill in the legislature of Tennessee to ban books that even mention LGBT people from Tennessee's schools. It passed the subcommittee. You can't even mention it. Come on, Bill Maher. Speak out about that cancel culture, huh?
Come on, people. Okay, people.
Yeah, Dennis says the people.
Okay.
I don't know. Something about Bill Maher's getting really annoying these days,
Oh,
D.
my
I'm
God.
just saying.
I've always thought that guy was annoying. I'm smart. You're not. Okay, people.
He is the ultimate I'm smart, you're not.
Ugh.
I'm so smart. Oh, my God.
Oh, and Ben, while we're here, tell people about your latest column at chicagoreader.com, by the way. We haven't done that in a while.
God. I just rip apart those Republicans.
Oh.
I am so sick of the Republican Party. They're the biggest bunch of frauds. God, are they? And part of me emerges because I'm so mad at Democrats. There's always that contingent of Democrats who thinks you could deal with the Republicans. And some of my good government friends have just lost their minds. They want to give Republicans more power in the state. The Republican Party is insane. And in particular, I was just thinking about the ways in which the debate over whether they would chastise Chris Miller, who is the downstate representative, the husband of Mary Miller, the congresswoman from Illinois. She, the congresswoman, is the one who said Hitler was right. He, the state rep, went to the January 6th insurrection, or at least the speech that kicked off the insurrection. He says he wasn't at the Capitol itself. And they have this preposterous notion that we should brainwash young children with right-wing Republican ideology to believe things that aren't even true, like the election was stolen, as the counteract. That's their vision. Like, it's a great struggle to see who could brainwash the children first. That's their notion. And the Democrats moved to chastise Miller for showing up at Trump's speech that kicked off the January 6th insurrection. Couldn't get any Republicans to join them. And some of the responses the Republican gave, it's just nonsense, the stuff that the Republican Party is clinging to. I saw that yesterday with Gary Levine. We'll talk about this in the Weekend Review, I know. And so I'm looking, D, somewhere for some voice of sanity in the Republican Party, and I'm seeing no signs of it anywhere. So I asked this of my Democratic friends, the good government types. Who are you going to have as an ally on any issue that matters to you from the Republican Party? Name an issue that matters to you. You can't find one ally. They're all lunatics. Anyway, so yeah, I really let it loose about the Republican Party in that column. Thanks for reminding me about that.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
It's
that.
the latest Chicago Reader column from our very own Ben Jarofsky, chicagoreader.com. Go check it out. And oh yeah, it turns out he's done this for 40 years, guys. There's a ton of more. All right. If you, boy, I'd like to read more of that. Oh, well, you got it. You got 40 years of coverage there on chicagoreader.com. Look for Ben Jarofsky. All right, we're taking some stats here, Ben, on Song of the Day. Brianna finally weighed in and let us know her thoughts. She says, I like Song of the Day, even though it's usually terrible.
Well, all right. Mystery guest, he's going to do it. We're going to do a duet. The mystery guest and I, or the mystery producer and I, are going to sing a song together.
Okay, seriously. So we want him to stay.
The mystery producer is also a DJ, so maybe he'll play background music while I'm singing my song. I don't know. That'll be a production meeting we're going to have on the Ben Jarofsky Show. But that's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow, 1 o'clock, the weekend review. And Dennis has got all kinds of tricks up his sleeve, I know. Right, D?
Oh, do I? Got the glass bottle there. Got that. We got.
I just biked around Lake
and
Michigan.
no one cares,
nearly
Mayor
1,000
Ron.
miles.
No one cares. That's great. All kinds of tricks.
Anyway, that'll be the show tomorrow. Want to thank Maya Dukmasova, outstanding job as she always does. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of Jordan, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. And as everybody knows, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Madam Secretary, you